and see the stages of life you were in, or maybe what you were going through, then you're not working hard enough at your craft. If you don't hate some of your past stuff, but love it and also appreciate like where you were at when you made that, then you're not growing. You gotta start somewhere. You're gonna suck. I don't think people want to suck. Seriously, I think people want the glory immediately. They don't want to suck. And that's just part of life, you know?
Welcome to the Paintbrush Prairie podcast. I'm Kinsey Ashcraft, a boutique owner, firefighter wife, and mama of 2 cowgirls, homesteading on a cattle ranch in Oklahoma.
And I'm Talia Watcott, a Western artist and illustrator, mama of 2, and wife of a mountain man, raising babies in the mountains of Utah.
Together, we share a passion for the Western lifestyle, homemaking, and Indian paintbrush flowers.
We're here to inspire and encourage you as we each create a simple but beautiful life on the prairie.
Welcome to the Paintbrush Prairie. We're so excited to have on Cassie of Wanderlust Skulls today. Cassie is a wife, mother, artist, and believer. Along with her family, they reside in western Wisconsin, and life is a daily adventure. Cassie has been a skull artist now for 7 years and is best known for her modern abstract western style. Her work has traveled the globe to be collected in 7 different countries. She has also been featured in multiple publications, including Cowgirl, Cowboys and Indians, and Cowboy Lifestyle magazines. Welcome, Cassie, to our show. We're so excited to have you on today.
Thanks, ladies. I'm excited too.
So Kathy's actually a personal friend of mine, so I am so excited to interview her. I love her stuff. I'm like one of the OG purchasers.
You are. You are.
My daughters have a buffalo skull in their
sure.
room, and we love it.
I feel like that was so long ago because it was.
It was, yes. I think that was like almost 7 years ago, actually.
It probably was.
Yeah.
I mean, we could really look back, but I think it would take us some time to look back that far and figure out the timeline.
I think that's right, because that was one of the first places that I saw your stuff was like, I think on Kenzie's page, but I've been following you forever and admiring all of your work forever.
Oh, I know. I love both of you guys and exactly like what you do, both creatively and through business.
Well, it's been such a joy to like watch your business grow, but also be able to become friends, and our husbands become friends, and then even our daughters are, pen pals. And so that's really fun to just be able to connect in that way. It's one of the positive things that I do love about social media, especially in our Western industry, is being able to connect with people on a personal level and get to do like life and business together.
I agree.
Anyway, well, we're going to jump into the episode because we have lots to talk about today. So, Cassie, tell us your story and give us some information about you, where you grew up, and your family, just a little bit of background about yourself.
Sure. So I grew up in Western Wisconsin. I didn't go very far. Still here, just one town over. Found myself a fella one town over. Didn't know he was there for, I think it was about 19 years. I grew up dairy farming. My dad had a construction business. I'm the oldest of 5 kids. And we just had a wild dairy farm country lifestyle, and I've always loved cattle, obviously. And I jokingly say that now I just work with them post-mortem after they've just met Jesus. Some people find it funny, some people don't, but whatever works. But Jesse and I have been together 14 years now, and I've been doing this for 7. And the reason I got started is I was working part-time in retail, and the place I was working was just becoming really toxic, where it was a place that I had really loved and enjoyed being before. And I decided to quit. I'm like, okay, I can totally do this like total stay-at-home mom thing. How hard can it be? This is coming from a girl who basically had 3 jobs from the age of 15 almost all the way up to motherhood. and I found myself just not really enjoying the transition as much. And 2 years prior to that, I had bought actually a steer skull in a local, just like antique consignment shop that's just in town. And I had decided to paint it because I'm like, well, all cowboys need a skull in their house, right? So I go on Google and I go on Pinterest and I'm just like, God, I just really don't like anything I'm seeing on here because I hadn't seen a lot of those before, especially like where we live. And so I decided I'm like, just try something, pull something out of your head, do it. So I painted it and I kept getting like a lot of compliments on it from people that would visit or people that like saw it in our home and they told me, they're like, that is so cool. Like, would you ever be able to do one for me? And my biggest setback then was I'm like, well, how in the heck am I going to get a hold of skulls with horns? I had gone back to the exact shop and I'm like, do you have any more? He's like, no. Because around here, mostly everybody dehorns their cattle. Obviously, if it's dairy or beef, which that's pretty standard throughout the whole industry. But finding something with horns on it, that's very, I don't know if the taboo is the right word. It's just not something you find. So again, back into the summer where I become stay-at-home mom, I decided to just like put something on Facebook and I'm like, does anybody have steer skulls or a skull with horns on it? Anybody? Bueller? Somebody? And somebody commented and messaged me and he had 3. So I went and bought them. I had no clue what to pay for them. I had no clue what they were worth. I just knew they were clean and there was nothing on them because at the time cleaning them also wasn't on my radar. And so I bought them, I brought them home, and I literally just took 3 days and I just screwed around with them and I painted them. I did basically nothing else. I had the kids outside with me, inside when I was painting. I put them on Facebook and I maybe made like $10 a piece on them if I'm lucky. Put them up for sale and had them all gone within like 2 days. So I'm like, well, this is kind of cool. Maybe I could try to find some more. So I ended up finding a gentleman near me that he used to have a longhorn herd, but then he moved to Corianis and he had a stash in his barn. So for about a year, I just go back and I buy like 5 or 6 at a time because that's like all I could afford. He was definitely super kind to me. Like the price he sold them to me for, like I'm never going to find that again. It was ridiculously cheap. And from that point, honestly, it was just find some more, figure it out, find more, figure it out. And then it came to be, I needed to figure out how to clean them because I couldn't find them cleaned anymore. So from there, self-taught taxidermy with a little help from my husband, Jesse. I'd say I probably have a stronger stomach than he does when it comes to this stuff. I've seen him gag a few times and it's kind of funny. But then I would start finding them and like buying them in a little bit bigger bulk. And then I started an Instagram page. I honestly did Instagram and Facebook before I even thought about having a web page. And I just kept going. Like that's literally all there is to it. I just kept going. I kept making things and posting them. And I've always loved taking pictures. So I always tried my absolute best to do the best imagery I could possibly do with my iPhone. And then I did get a camera, but I'm kind of back on the iPhone train again because it's just easier. And that's just how I did it.
That's awesome.
That's so it's just so cool to hear your story. Like get like little bits and pieces from Instagram and like following you but it's nice to hear it like all in one, you know. Like
Yeah. And that's like probably the shortened version, I think. But yes, definitely.
it's just so I don't know. I love it because I love connecting with women who they have an idea for something and instead of just being like, well, I don't know how to do that, so darn, like they just figure it out, you know? And so I just think that's
Yeah.
so cool.
Yeah. Thank you.
So, kind of going back to your beginnings, have you always been artistic? Have you always liked Western art or
Yeah.
been involved in art? Kind of explain your the art side of your past.
Sure. I was always extremely artistic. But all I heard growing up is like artists never make money, artists are broke. You can do it for fun, but you're probably not going to do it beyond that. My grandpa actually, I don't know if you guys ever heard of the Art Institute in Minneapolis. He called them when I was a kid, gave them my information, and had them send like this pamphlet to us. And I remember being about 12 or 13 and receiving it and reading it in his kitchen in front of like my dad's whole family. And all my aunts and uncles were like, well, that's really cool, but Dad, there's no way she's going to make money doing art. And so I think that kind of scorned me for quite a while. I never took art classes in high school because I really didn't like the art teacher. He wasn't an enjoyable fellow. And then I went to school for agricultural business. So I didn't do anything with art there. I was always that creative friend that you'd contact if you needed help with something. Like my girlfriends that got married and they wanted to do fake flowers. They called Cassie because Cassie would do their bouquets for them. People that just wanted help designing like a space or an area, they'd call me and ask. So that was definitely something that I had to break through. And even though I was doing it, I would say it took 3 years for me to really understand that it was a gift and a talent that I had. And there was absolutely nothing wrong with me using that to support my family and also just like fill my soul up a little bit. I actually just bought myself a sketchbook again because it's been so long since I've sketched. And I've decided that I want to start kind of just doing that this year, just for fun. Like I'm not going to do anything with it, but I'm like something else besides just the skull art, which really fills me up. But I want to like challenge myself a little bit more artistically. But I just think a lot of people get that sometimes when they're younger. They hear that from maybe somebody close or maybe outside of them, and it really sticks with them. So they think that they can't do anything with it or that it doesn't have any value. Like your creative parts of you aren't valuable. So that's something I'm also passionate about, is like really hyping people up if I can tell that they have that way of thinking still, is like letting them know that it's possible. Yeah, it's going to take some work, but I kind of think also nowadays with social media and the internet, there's kind of not an easier time in history than now to at least get your stuff out there and begin somewhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think that every artist has a time when they go through some major imposter syndrome, and they have to like,
very much.
I mean, and I don't know if you're this way, but I battle with it almost every day.
Yeah.
Where it's
I mean, I
like,
still do.
like you can be making a living doing it, but some days you're like, is this really what I should be doing? And then you're like, no, I'm
Or
good.
you look at what you
Yeah.
just did, you're like, oh, I suppose that's not even that great,
Right.
but here we go. We'll just work with it.
Yeah.
And then it turns out it's just fine.
Right, exactly. And the other thing is like, I feel like you have a really good support system with your family. I have a really good support system. Like those days when you are doubting yourself, you have those people to help lift you up and be like, no, you can do this.
Yeah, exactly. Or they'll tell you maybe just to take a small break, which who knows if that may last 5 minutes or it could last a week, but you're fine once you're done with that little break.
Yep.
Yeah, and I look at both y'all and I'm just like, y'all are crazy for even doubting yourself. I think y'all are so talented.
Aw,
I wish
Kinsey.
I wish I had just a little bit of that artistic talent.
Oh, you do. In designing rooms and homes.
In different ways.
In different ways.
Yeah. So we've kind of talked about, what inspired you and when you created your first skull art and stuff, but walk us through the process of creating a skull from start to finish. Like these are some of my favorite videos that you share on Instagram is the process, because I'm one of those people, I enjoy the process of something from start to finish and I like to see it. Yeah, it's great to look at something that's completely beautiful, but like, how did it get there? And so those are the videos that my brain is attracted to. So kind of walk our audience through like from once you pick up that skull to when you ship it off to the new owner's hands?
Sure. And also, I guess I could add, a lot of people ask me how many hours it takes, and it's so hard to keep track because I get them in a very gross form. Like I said earlier, they just met Jesus. So it's literally almost a full head. And I get them home. And sometimes too, they are at least like boiled off, but that doesn't mean they're ready to go. You have to get the grease out of the bone. And because of where we live and the techniques I've decided to use now, I have to start in spring, and I basically have from spring to fall to do it, get it done. Um, I have been loving a process called maceration. It's absolutely disgusting. Actually, my husband hates that word. He wants me to think of something else. I don't know why it bothers him. But you soak the heads in water. Hand water actually breaks down dead flesh. And so when you pull them out, everything is basically coming off, or at least for the most part, all off. And then you power wash it off. You remove the horns. So, like, that's something Kenzie's talking about. Like, I have to take the horn caps off, the horn cores. So that's a whole process. You have to cut the horn cores down, and that's for shipping. And then you take those skulls and you take them back, and you have to do degreasing baths over and over and over again until you can tell that all the grease is out of the bone. And then they need a quick rinse, which isn't really quick at all. You let them dry, and then they're ready for art. Again, that process is so time consuming. And I think maybe the reason I don't keep track of the time is I don't want to realize maybe how little I'm actually charging or paying myself.
Well, that's what I was about to say is, like, let's go ahead and interject here with the comments about, well, why is it so much? And you're just like,
Yeah.
are you kidding me? And then you see Cassie on Instagram with her ratchet straps, like pulling these horn caps off her tree and her coveralls.
Pulling dead meat out of my mouth after it's blown into my face. You know, my husband doesn't want to lay in bed with me for a few days because I smell so bad, even after a shower. Just kidding. But yes, I mean, let's take simple math for a moment. If you have a $3,000 art piece and you have 200 hours in it, that's $15 an hour. People are flipping burgers for that nowadays. So just to get a little sassy, please do tell me why I'm charging too much for my art pieces. I'd love to hear it again, because I'd love to see you come and clean these dead, rotting flesh and bone and nose and eyeballs and brain and tongue and everything out of these in order to make them something pretty.
Yeah, Instagram just needs a scratch and sniff for you.
Oh
for
my
your
gosh.
Page.
Seriously.
I have people joke about that, just like you did, Kenzie. And then I actually have people be like, I actually wish I could figure out how that smells. I'm like,
no, you don't.
No, you don't.
No, you don't. You really don't.
Like,
like you don't want to know.
Anyone who has cleaned, like, boiled out skulls, and because, like, we do the European mounts ourselves when we kill our deer, and man, every time I see you cleaning, I'm like, good girl. Thanks. Because it is, like, so rough.
Like, I can smell it. It's like when you get that, there's certain smells you don't forget. Yes. It's like when Cassie's cleaning it, I'm like, all right, I'll watch it for a minute, and then I'm going to scroll on because I can, like, it's coming back to me.
Yeah. I have to say, when I figured out that I had to clean them or this wasn't going to be a thing, Jesse built me a boiler, and he used an old diesel fuel tank, and he cut it 3/4 and 1/4. Okay. And he fabricates this thing up for me. And I know it was a Sunday because he invited his best friend over. He's like, we're going to clean this skull for Cassie. We're going to figure out how easy it is, blah-de-da. I made a roast for supper. And he came in the house that night. He's like, did you make beef? And I was like, yeah. He goes, I can't eat beef. Probably for a week. I was like, why? Oh, why? Because he boiled the very first one that we ever boiled. I guess I learned pretty quick. I'm like, but then we get over it, right? We get used to it. We get over it. But it was so funny. Like I had this beautiful roast. I'm like, thanks, Daddy. He's like, bleh, bleh. I can't eat it. It has its own smell, and it's not good. Takes a strong stomach. Then I guess you could say, like, for the art part, that's the part where I thrive, and that's what we're wanting to get to, and that's what we're wanting to actually like do. So that's the exciting part for me. However, within the last 2 years, I've been so busy with like custom commissions, which is a great thing, that I haven't had as much time to just like do on my own. And I have taken the time this year because it's been a little bit slower to do that, but it's going to sound weird. I just like look at it and then I look at the horn color, especially with longhorns. Like, I think that's important for me for the actual like painted part to complement the horn color because there are certain things that just don't work together. And I just do it. Driving or taking a walk or riding four-wheeler, those are all times where things will just randomly come to me and I get ideas. Sometimes I'll get ideas if I get to go somewhere different than where I live and like get inspiration from furniture stores or antique shops or downtown areas, just like places, spaces, stories, things, music, people, that all I draw inspiration from. However, I would say like when I finally get into the process of painting, it can take anywhere between 2 full days. So like I'd say a good 48 hours to up to a week to finish a piece because I also have to sand the horns down. That's another part. And that I kind of consider into the finishing stages, not necessarily like the cleaning, even though it is partially like cleaning them off, but that's in the finishing stages of the art piece is sanding horns. And I don't know, there's just no way to explain it. I just do it. And then something comes out of it.
So what about shipping those things? Because I know like you have to take the horns off and stuff, but let's talk about shipping and trying to like package those things and make sure they get to their destination safely and then actually arrive. And
yeah.
I know
think
I know you
knows.
had one MIA one day.
I did, and that it was so scary. I'll tell you about that in a moment. I'll start with the shipping first. I buy my shipping supplies in bulk because again, you go through the motions, you go through life, and you learn. I used to buy everything individually as needed from the UPS store that's, in the big town near me. And I go and I buy like 2 or 3 boxes and I buy like a big ass bag of packing peanuts, just things like that. Now I buy in bulk. I keep everything stored at the house. My boxes are quite large. So you get them out, you get them ready, you prep the actual art piece. So buffalo skulls are shipped as one, which is awesome because I do glue those horns on right away because they can go into the box and fit in there as one. Longhorns, it's not the same. So like I said earlier, I cut the horn cores down. And then when you're shipping it, the skull is going to be alone. And I do take a sticker and I put it on each side of the horns and I label them for whomever is receiving it. And then I pack up the horn as well. They go into the very bottom of the box. The skull goes on top. I label those and I give people instructions. And I do give them glue if they choose to make it permanent. A lot of skulls you don't actually like have to do that with because they're tight enough. But some people want that option. So I give them the option. And then pack those boxes as full as you can with packing peanuts, packing paper, whatever is going to stop movement from happening in any way, shape, or form. And then obviously like tape, the stickers, the branding, all the things. I do still take all my boxes in to ship because I can't pay for like UPS pickup right now because some weeks like it's like 1 box.
Yeah.
Other weeks it's 5 to 6. So I just make do and go ahead and drive them in. That's another thing like people don't necessarily think about. That's time and energy that you're spending, within the whole process to get stuff to people. And I think a lot of people are maybe intimidated by the shipping. I'm not, because I've done it so many times now. It seems like second nature. But if you get something from me, rest assured it's going to be in a really big box. You're probably going to be shocked when it shows up at your place. And they're normally not terribly heavy. They're just more awkward than anything.
Yeah.
But what Kenzie was getting at is it wasn't last year. Well, actually it was early last year. It was in January. A customer contacted me who had bought something in December of 2022. And she wasn't like rude or anything. She's like, my skull hasn't showed up. It says it's en route. I haven't seen it. And I was like, oh no, this can't be. So I call UPS for her because I just felt that like sense of responsibility. And I ended up talking to a wonderful woman who was very helpful. Thank God that's who I got right off the bat. I could understand her. She was super helpful. And she's like, I'm going to see what I can do to figure this out, because she could see like the last scan point, which was La Crosse, which is near me. That's where I take them. That's the last standpoint they had for this box. And she called me back within about a day to let me know that they had lost it. They didn't know where it was. And I had all this paperwork to try to fill out. They were going to reimburse me for the cost of the item. So then I had to go back and tell my customer that they'd lost her skull. And this was the first time that a piece had ever been lost. So I guess I can really count myself lucky, because if I was about 6 years in and that was the first time that a piece had been lost, like this is a good thing. Yeah. But I just kept thinking to myself, I'm like, how did you lose it? These boxes are huge.
That's what I was going to ask. Like, how do you lose a box that big?
But then I have a friend who, her and her husband have a Massel diesel business. So they like build transmissions, they add accessories to big diesel trucks, like all the things. She messaged me, she goes, so we sent a transmission and UPS lost it.
How do you lose a transmission?
What?
Transmission. She's like, it happens. I'm like, oh God, well, making me feel a little better because a tranny's way bigger than a skull.
Yeah.
But then the weirdest thing happened. So I start filling the paperwork out. And for me, I told my customer, because here's the other thing. She was a single mom who told me she never bought herself anything, and she'd saved forever to buy a piece from me. Like all of these heart-wrenching things. So I'm like, I'm going to send you some skulls. You can pick one out. I am going to repaint it as close as humanly possible to what you had, and I'm going to get this sent to you. And she's like, oh, thank you, blah, blah, blah. So I get all this paperwork filled out. I get it turned in, and then I get home one day, and there's a Wanderlust Skulls box on our porch. I was like, why is there a Wanderlust Skulls box on my porch? I haven't sent the skull out for a photo shoot. I hadn't sent the skull out to like come back to me. Because they're on the like return address. It was UPS in Salt Lake City. I opened the box up and it's her skull. And the box is just ransacked. So what had happened, which is so strange because this had never happened before, is the envelope that the shipping label was in got ripped off somewhere between La Crosse and the next destination. And so then they had to open the box to find the packing slip, the address, information, all these things. And it did come back to me, and the nose was slightly broken on the bottom. And I did fix that. And I messaged her and I'm like, do you want this one or not? This is what happened. I can fix it, and then I can paint it, hide that small broken piece, And she's like, that's fine with me. So then I painted it, and then I prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed that it was going to show up to her house, and it did. But I tell you what, that was a hard week and a half. I felt sick every day because this woman had paid $2,800 for a Longhorn skull, and it was just lost
Yeah.
That's what I was
in
about to say. It's not like, she ordered a t-shirt or,
right,
something like that. It's a
right.
large item.
It is a large item. And I've learned a lot too with shipping. Um, it is really hard to insure custom pieces. And yes, you can do it, but that's another chance I take is that it's going to get to them and possibly be broken or need repair. It's only happened literally 3 or 4 times, but the one time I was trying to actually do an insurance claim for a customer, they denied it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
They wouldn't cover it. And I learned pretty quickly a few things about shipping art pieces. And it's just interesting the things that they will do and won't do for you when it comes to stuff like that. It's kind of crazy.
That's
Yeah,
interesting.
I've tried to file a few claims with the store just on small,
Sure.
small orders, and
Right.
9 times out of 10 they're not going to cover it even if you haven't it's insured. It's insane. I'm like it's the biggest scam.
It is. And then I kind of include shipping insurance within my pricing. So if
Mhm.
somebody checks out on my website, you actually have no clue how much I'm paying for that to make sure that hopefully something is covered and saved. Like I just
Right.
include that within my
Yeah.
pricing because that's not something that I go through Shopify. I know a lot of small businesses do. That's not something at checkout that the person chooses. I choose to do that myself for my clients. And that's just something I do on the back end when I ship them.
Oh man. It's like sending off an original piece of art is like it's like putting your baby in the hands of a stranger. You're just like, okay,
Yeah.
please take care
Yeah.
of it. Don't ruin it. Like it has to make it
Uh,
safely. And you just feel like there's
exactly.
like nothing you can do. Like I've only
Right.
sent a few original pieces in the mail so far, and like luckily they've
Mhm.
all arrived just fine. But
Yeah.
it's like, you know, makes you
It's nerve
very,
wracking a
very
little
nervous.
bit. And I feel like it takes a few months to wear off after something bad like that happens,
Yeah.
but it does. It
Yeah.
does. And then you just wait for the next time.
Jeez. I actually know a few like oil painters that
Yeah,
they will only ship their stuff if it's like, clear across the country. Like, oh, if it's like a few states away, they'll like drive it. And I'm like,
sure.
that's amazing. I don't know how you do that,
It is
but
amazing. Just with the way our life is, I couldn't do that.
right.
But then again, like I don't sell anything around here. Like I don't.
Right.
Everything is states away from me or
Mhm.
countries away. People around here just don't really invest in my stuff. I am excited. I am doing one right now for a lady. It's about a half an hour from me. And like when I told Jesse, I'm like, I'm so excited. I get to actually deliver an art piece to this lady's house. And he's like,
Yeah.
well, that's pretty cool because that just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But that's only a half an hour away, so we can manage.
Yeah. All right. So, um just trying to keep on like we've talked a little bit about how you got started.
Mhm.
I'm really curious about how you basically had to figure out all of your techniques, right? Like, tell us a
Oh
little bit
yeah.
more about how you um, developed your
Mhm.
process. Like, you don't have to give away your trade secrets or anything, but
Yeah.
just kind of like give us an
Yeah.
idea of like how you figured out how to make your skulls the way you do.
Sure. Um, Trial and error, baby. Trial and error. And one thing that I think is a strength for me is that I don't go looking for inspiration from people within the same medium as me.
Yep.
I love looking at other mediums, techniques they may be using, texture they may have, figured out or that I find interesting. Um, I like looking at other mediums, so canvas work, people that are sewing things, people that are building things with their hands, so like wood art, and drawing inspiration from that. So, one cool thing about cleaning all my canvases is that I have all these jawbones that, yes, I do paint jawbones and I do sell those, but I'll take jawbones and I'll screw around with those because for me, it's like nothing lost. And I'll take new paints or I'll try new techniques or ideas on those first and figure out if it's going to work or practice and then put it back onto the skull. One thing that I have done a lot of over the years too is I've tried an excessive amount of different paints. Um, and now I use multiple different paints to get the final product. It's not just like I'm just using acrylic, I'm just using spray paint, I'm just using chalk. I don't use oil on a skull. I thought about doing it before, but I just don't think that would be a good idea to do oil on a skull. Not
Yeah.
sure if it would work, but I use probably 4 to 5 different types of paint to get my actual outcome, like a finished piece. Um, I really, really love texture too. And so that's something I've been working on developing over the years. And I feel like I'm not going to say I've ever made it with it because I love trying new things, but I think I've done a really good job at actually bringing texture onto my art pieces. And it's something that it's easier to see in person. So whoever buys it and gets to enjoy it can actually look at it and see all of the different aspects of the texture on the art piece. My most popular finishes, I kind of feel like it may be a forever thing, is rust, which that's a chemical paint. And people love blue patina as well. And those are just really good classic Western staples. So I think that's why they're so popular. But within the last year, I decided to take those two and see how I could incorporate other things into it and just like use a blend of the mediums to make a final art piece. And I just tell people all the time, like people mess with like, well, I can't figure out how to do this or I can't figure out how to do that. I'm like, do you think Picasso was good the first 50 paintings he made? Like, I look at my original stuff sometimes, besides Kenzie's. I love Kenzie's. I'm like, oh my God, did I freaking make that? Like, what was I thinking? But that's good. That's good because it shows growth and it shows that you've put the time and energy in and the care to make something of value that's worth owning and worth having. And I did see something the other day. I can't remember who said it, but it was an artist that I follow that paints. She paints canvas. And she said, if you can't look at all of your past work and see the growth and see the stages of life you were in, or maybe what you were going through, then she goes, then you're not working hard enough at your craft. I was like, oh, dang girl, yeah.
I love that.
I get that. You don't hate some of your past stuff, but love it and also appreciate like where you were at when you made that. Then you're not growing.
Yeah.
Very
Well,
quickly.
you have to start somewhere, no
Gotta
matter
start
what
somewhere.
you're doing. Yeah.
You're gonna suck. I don't think people want to suck. Seriously, I think people want the glory immediately. They don't want to suck. And that's just part of life, It's just like learning to walk or learning to ride or do anything. You're not going to be very good. You may have natural tendencies that make you a little better than other people, but you're not going to be very good at it.
Yeah.
Right. Well, speaking of, you produce pieces that are one of a kind, and we think your work is truly unmatched. Like, it's
Oh, thank you.
absolutely beautiful, and it shows with, you know, the places you've sent pieces, the pieces that have been featured in areas like, um, like those magazines that you talked about. And so how has your creativity process evolved over the years? Because like we said, we have to start somewhere. Has it stayed pretty consistent, or has it changed over time of how you kind of create these skulls and come out with, you have visions of what you want them to look like?
Mhm. I'd say it's definitely changed. And then also there's a piece where it's gotten like more consistent in the past few years as well. Um, I can tell when I started being better at like blending,
Mhm.
where there weren't as many harsh lines anymore. And again, that was all because I was willing to try different techniques and use different mediums and just play around with stuff to see what worked, what didn't work. Um, but now I think I'm at a point, and I'd say the last 3 years, especially, where people can really see stuff and they know if I'm the one that did it.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
And I think that's kind of a cool like stamp to have. It's like people will see it and they'll be like, that is from Cassie from Wanderlust Skulls.
Yeah.
That's not from whomever else. Because like there's a lot of people out there that do skull art. There's a lot of skull artists out there that I love, and I love what they do. But I think it's really neat when you can say like this person for sure made that.
Yep.
I think that's such a testament to how hard you work at your craft too. Because, like you said, I'm able to see something before I even see the logo in like a magazine ad, and I know it's
Mhm,
Cassie's. And I've told Talia the
mhm.
same. I'm like, oh, I see, a piece of art, and I'm like, Talia drew that.
Yep.
So I think that is
Yep.
such a testament to how hard you do work at your craft when people are able to do that.
Yeah. Thank you. I agree. I agree. And I love that too, like looking at other people's work. Like I can tell when Talia made something. And
Mhm.
I just love knowing people enough artistically to feel like you can recognize them, you can recognize their work. I love
Mhm.
wild form art out of Canada, Mike. And I actually have one of his pieces. You could throw all his pieces in front of me or mix them up with other people, and I'd be able to always pick out his work from other people
Mhm.
because he just has a stamp. It's
Yeah.
like that's from him. Um, there's a lot of other artists I could mention as well. And it's just, there's something to just really be able to say that people can pick that out
Yeah.
and enjoy that and love that as well.
Mhm.
And it speaks to people, I think, on a higher level. Like, there's people that try to get into mediums, but then they're all over the place.
Right.
How is anybody ever going to know what you're going for when, well, let's just take Scholar, for example. When your crystals one day, maybe you're trying to paint something the next day, and then there's the photo skull thing, which we don't need to get deep into that. But then they're trying to put a picture on it the next day, and it's like you're confusing everybody.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You are confusing people, and you wonder why you can't sell anything.
Yeah.
You haven't taken the time to figure out what your style is, so you're speaking to nobody because you're trying to speak to everybody.
Well, and to me, why would you want to be like everybody? You want to have your own
Exactly.
style. Like in it from a consumer
Exactly.
standpoint, if I want something from Wapiti Sage, I want it to look like Wapiti Sage. Same goes for like
Exactly.
Mark Maggiore. Like, why would
Yes.
I want to get anything else other than like his specific style? I don't
And if
want
it
his.
takes you if it
Well,
takes you 5 years to save up for one, it's gonna
yes.
because you want
Well,
what he's got.
well, but the thing is like I'm buying his art style. I don't want him
Yeah.
to want to create and paint like other artists. I want him to create and paint
Yes.
like himself. That's what I'm buying. I'm buying him.
Yep. Yep. And I think people sometimes see other people doing stuff and they think, "Well, I can do that." Well, why can you do that? I wanna know how this is a part of you or comes from you. Or are you just trying to do it because you think you're gonna make a quick buck or because it's popular, because it's trendy? If you can't actually see the person creating it within the piece,
Mhm.
it doesn't have the value that
Mhm.
a lot of people are looking for. It doesn't speak to anybody specifically. So, those are things people have to think about when they're actually deciding to like pursue art. Like, how can you put yourself into it where people recognize it and that's what they want to buy? Because here's the thing, people aren't just buying art, they're buying you and they're buying your story.
Right.
Yep.
And
And you
that's
can
fine because not everybody's going to want to buy that. That's fine.
well, and you can definitely tell if someone doesn't have a true passion for it
Yeah.
within their work.
Yeah, exactly.
I was just gonna
Exactly.
say, yeah, like the one thing that I have always loved about your style is like over the years, I've noticed that you like it's definitely evolved, but you've
Mhm.
always been true to yourself and your style. So it's like where you are now, you are so much more adventurous with your color palettes, with your, like you
Yeah.
said, your textures and some of the different things that you do. But I can still tell, like, you can always see your skull and tell that it's yours. And um,
Mhm.
just over the years, it's like you just have that signature style no matter what you do.
Yeah.
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
and
Exactly.
I mean, really, like, I feel like that's what makes you stand out so much is like, yeah, there's a million people that can do skull art, but no one does it like you. And in my opinion, you're the best. But
Oh, well, thank you. Appreciate that.
so I mean, and the other thing going back to what Kenzie was saying is like, I can look at your skulls and I can feel your passion for it. I can feel your, like, the heart and soul that you put into it just by looking
Mhm.
at it. And I think that's really important too. Like, you can tell when you look at people who are just like copy and pasting things or
Yes.
tracing,
Yes.
other people's
Yes.
work, which happens.
Mhm.
Obviously, like, the passion is not there because they're, like,
Yep.
they're not even passionate enough to like try and do their own thing. They're just trying to copy someone else, right? So
Yeah.
I think that is important.
Yeah. Thank you.
So, kind of going along with that, I kind of led right into that. But so we love, I mean, I've always loved following you because you're so entertaining. Like, I love seeing your personality come through, and whether it's like your hilarious reels or just like, if something happens, I feel like if it's a bad thing, like losing your that skull, you always have like a way to twist it and like keep it light and like, put some
Mhm.
humorous spin on it to make it like not so like hard. And
Yes.
I'm not blessed that way. Like, I tend to
Oh.
take things like so seriously and then I get like so down in the gutter, but like that's why I need to learn from you just to like keep things light. But how do you do it? Like, how do you stay positive even when, it hits the fan?
I think there's a couple things. Humor is a coping mechanism. Secondly, I'm a firstborn daughter. I totally have a type A personality. I am ridiculously competitive. And while those are all good things, they can also be somewhat bad things. So that's where my like humor comes in because I have to make things light or I sometimes feel like a heavy person. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah.
Um because I am go 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 go. Like I dare you to keep up with me. That's my personality. But I also enjoy humor. And I remember like when I first began, I thought I needed to be very serious all the time because I'm like, well, you're an artist. Artists are serious in their little berets drinking cappuccinos, drawing in the public square. Like you need to be serious and spit out these really thoughtful things that everybody's gonna be like, oh yes, how wise of him. Yes. But then I joined a mastermind and one of the things I took away from that was be yourself. Like 100%, just be yourself. So I'm like, well, I mean, I'm kind of funny. So maybe I should just like let that out. And when I did, I found that more people were engaged because they're like, oh, she's really funny, or she's got something silly to say, or she just went through this, but she's spinning it to make it feel better in this way. And I have learned that like just really being yourself also helps build a really great audience.
Mhm.
And also, again, like I need the humor because if people knew what a person had to deal with on a daily basis or even weekly basis, they might be like, I don't know how you did that. Like, you guys, I have to clean dead stuff. Are you kidding me?
Right.
Gotta make that funny. Man.
Oh, yeah.
So that's just how I do that. Plus, my husband, if you think I'm a jokester, you gotta meet Jesse. Jesse takes everything to the next level, so I have to try to keep up with him.
They are quite the pair. Y'all are hilarious. We love y'all so much. Like we probably should have had Zach and Jesse on as guests today along with you. Like
we went
just let them chat about some stuff.
Yeah, us three wouldn't have spoke like the whole time.
No,
you know,
it would have been
would have.
We'd have
been like, this is good. Yeah, this is good.
Maybe we should do like a Patreon.
They are funny.
Like a Patreon special
husband
video with like our husbands and have a big
husband guest episode.
That would be so great. Maybe also it wouldn't be great. We'd be like,
they're just taking over the show.
Did they just say that?
Well, the problem is too is like Zach and Jesse would just be one-upping each other, like taking it on, and it just would go too far. Yeah,
it would. It would go too far. 100%.
So to kind of segue, have you ever experienced seasons of burnout, and how do you handle them?
Yeah. Oh, so many times. And I think it's because of the amount of effort it takes to just keep going and the amount of effort it takes to make a piece from start to finish. If you want to get to sourcing it, driving to go get them, cleaning them, making sure they're ready to go, then the artistic creation, then the marketing, then the customer service. Like there's so much more to small business, which I know you guys really know, than what's actually seen. And honestly, that can really cause burnout. 2022 is a very, very hard year for us and our family for many different reasons. And I did not feel the repercussions of that until last year, like last fall, where I did keep going, but I just felt like there wasn't a whole heck of a lot of zest for much of anything. And in January, even this year, I was like, it's okay to kind of slow down for just a little while because you need to. And I had gotten caught up with all my custom commissions, which is so cool. So I didn't have anything like lingering there that needed to be done. And so I just kind of took a little bit slower and made when I wanted to. Just took the time to connect with people. And I think we have to remember, as hard as it may be, to separate ourselves from business, because if you don't, you almost forget that you're a human too. And humans need more than just to push all the time. So that's something that I really want myself to learn a little more this year. Somehow, and we'll get there, but I think my competitive nature also just keeps me going. Like I'll reach a season of burnout, but I get back up because I want to do it again. I want to keep going because I don't feel like the story is over.
Right. I totally understand where you're coming from there. Like, because you love it so much and you're so passionate about it, it's so easy to take it like 150%, like all the time. Like, I love this. And then all of a sudden you're like, I hate this. When you get to that point where you're just like, you've pushed it too hard. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh no, what did I do? Like, And so I love that, like, you're bringing that up, because I think it's so important to, like, even when you love something as much as you do, you have to like check in with yourself and be like, am I overdoing it? Because you don't want to get to that point of like hating it, right? Like you don't, and I say hating it, but like you're not really hating it. You're just like, it's almost like you're like mad at it. It's like
you're mad at the process.
Yeah,
like sometimes
it almost like starts to control your life instead of you being in control of it. And I mean, there's different types of like different things in business, whether it's commissions or just doing your own work. Like I feel like those are two pretty different things. and like finding a balance between those to make sure that you're still being creatively fulfilled, and then also like still able to like make a living and pay bills and keep
Yeah,
your
yeah,
business going. But
definitely.
yeah. So kind of going along with that, but how have you been able to, separate yourself from your business, and you're a wife, you're a mom, and I know you have hobbies. So tell us kind of how you've juggled,
Sometimes.
balanced, however you want to say that.
Um, I have really come to the conclusion in the last few years too, though, that balance is just not a thing.
Right.
And some seasons require more than others do. Um, I have priorities.
Mm-hmm.
You have to prioritize certain things, and if you don't, that's where stuff can really get lost. So if you don't know what's super important, you tend to forget about it. So it's really important to have priorities, I feel like, over balance, because with spring and summer and fall coming up, like for a lot of people, that is your busiest time of year. And you need to have a set list of things that are way more important that get done so you don't forget to keep yourself on track. Um, Otherwise, I don't have any really good like brain buster ideas for you guys other than I hate it when people say, I'm just looking for balance. I'm like, well, good luck in fairyland because that crap ain't happening.
Right. It's like
I just,
it's almost like picking and choosing, like you say,
it is.
prioritizing, and the priorities change at certain times of the year
Yeah.
even.
Yeah. And seasons flow. Everybody knows that. So every season is going to look a little different. And sometimes you might have to come back around and be like, okay, within this season, what's important? And go from there. And then it could change again in a month or a week or 6 months. You just have to be willing to change with it, or you're going to drive yourself crazy.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. Well, kind of go on to a little bit different of a topic. What are some of your big dreams or goals for your business, or maybe just your life in general? It doesn't necessarily have to be just about your business. It could all, kind of coexist too.
Um, we would love, like family wise, we'd love for my husband to not be working full time and running a business full time because we're also farming. So it'd be really great if he could just soon, we're hoping, um, just run his business. And then also we have that farming aspect that will never go away. But for personal, like with business, I really want to get to, and I know it's not going to be for just in a year, I want to get to $1 million in art sales is like a
Awesome.
really big goal that I have. And I know that that's not something, like I said, that's going to be like from January, December, $1 million. Unless I have a team, that's not happening. And I don't. So I've accepted that. But I do want to get to a point where my art pieces are priced in a way that I don't have to take on as much work.
Yeah.
So that I have more bandwidth, and maybe just more time to breathe. And I know I can get there. It's just I don't think I'm there yet. But that's coming from a place of self-reflection. So you have to be able to look at things like that. Like, are you there yet? Are you at a place where you can charge that much? Or do you still have work before you get there? And I just think that's an honest question that a lot of people, especially artistic people, need to ask themselves. Don't overprice yourself before you really should. Because you don't want to oversell yourself. And then people get something and they're like, that's not what I paid for.
Yeah, for sure.
And I guess this is going to sound silly, but just keep my head above water this year. That would be great.
Yeah.
That's a silly silly sounding goal, but
It's not
I
I'm
think
silly.
we're
just,
all, yeah, I
At
think we're
all.
all feeling that way.
yeah, just,
I think that's everyone's goal this year.
Yeah.
yeah. And one other like personal slash business one is to network better because, or more, and actually network in person because that's something that I haven't been able to do a lot. And I really do love meeting people. I love meeting people and talking to them and hearing their story about their business or why they do what they do. I just love that part of human connection. So that's something that I would love to do this year
Mhm.
more of.
Yeah, I think that's really, you don't really think about it. Like, it's hard as an artist to be like, yeah, I need to go and like meet people because you're just like
Yes.
sitting in your house making your art and you're like, cool. And then
Yeah.
people buy
In
it
your solitude.
online and it's like, cool. And then you're like,
Yeah.
you get out and you start connecting with artists. Like, I went to a art workshop like was it the other
Yes.
couple weekends ago,
I saw that.
and
I
it
think
was
that's
like
awesome.
it was like so refreshing and so rejuvenating. Like, just it like fired me up, and it's just
Good.
like you don't realize that until you go and do it and you're like, oh, I really needed that. Should have gotten
Yeah.
out more.
Yeah. Needed to get out of my bubble for a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree.
All right. So, what is like one of the most fulfilling things that has happened in your business, or something that was just like so awesome, or like a dream come true?
Actually, I'd say one of the coolest things I ever got to do is Brush Creek Ranch in Saratoga, Wyoming, bought art from me that is now for sale there.
Mm.
And I actually got to go and visit Brush Creek. It wasn't peak season, so I think that's why they let me come then. They were closed getting ready for summer, but I got to go through all the buildings, see all the places, see all the things. You want to talk about inspiring spaces? That place is really cool. Um, that and honestly, and I get this almost weekly, is hearing from people after they've gotten their piece or hearing from people from a few years ago. They'll send me pictures and they're like, I just love this so much. I'm so thankful that I have it. Like knowing that you've made that type of impact on your clients is seriously one of the absolute best, most fulfilling pieces of being an
Mhm.
artist. Um, and that probably doesn't sound like a really big deal to a lot of people, but it really is very cool to be able to experience that on a weekly, if not monthly basis. I love that part of it.
That's awesome. I have one last question for you, but
Yeah.
do you ever, this is like totally an artist question, but how do you explain to people like what you do? Like when people are like, "Oh, like what do you do for work?"
I used to say I decorate dead stuff.
Yeah. Like the bad explanation posts, like describe
Yes.
poorly what you do.
I was like, oh, I'm winning this one. No, I tell people now that I'm a skull artist and that my medium of choice is longhorn and buffalo skulls. And I say that all together.
Yeah,
Otherwise, sometimes you get some really weird looks. They're like,
like human skulls.
oh, yeah, I've had people ask that before. Or after you say that, then too, you'll have people be like, so you want to pay like a raccoon skull for me? No,
No.
I don't do oddities. So no.
Yeah, you're like, this is fine
But
art. This is not like, you know, the
exactly.
witch
And then,
shop down the street.
yes, thank you. um, And then I always have to show people pictures because they're like, okay, because I do think truly I've taken a specific art form and I've made it very different than what it was before.
Yeah.
For me, anyways, in my
Yeah.
style. A lot of people think of either turquoise embellished or crystal embellished skulls, or they think of skulls with, flowers or dried goods glued on them because that's kind of a timeless style that people have done for a very long time. Or they think of the style of piece in which has like an eagle painted on it, or
Right,
it's got
right.
the cowboy
Yep.
painted on it. You
Mhm.
know, just kind of like using it as a regular canvas to portray a scene.
Right.
So I tell people that I have a modern Western abstract appeal, which people are like, oh, what does that mean? And then, you show them and they get that.
Yeah.
They get that from that. So that's just kind of how I explain it. I dropped the I decorate dead stuff thing probably
Good
4
idea.
years ago. I like people would be like, oh, she's one of those weirdos. Like the bad taxidermy
Yeah.
videos. Yeah. So
Picking up roadkill off the side of the road.
yeah. Well, and that's another thing. Now that you say that, Kenzie, people are like, oh, you just like find these in the woods.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Find them all in the
We got
woods.
lots of buffalo out back.
Buffalo, longhorn, they're just roaming, freeling, just doing their thing. And I just find them after they die peacefully.
Right.
People don't want to hear the other stuff. I actually had a woman walk up to me at a show once and she just kept coming back. I was like, what? Like, she never talked to me. She'd go by and she'd kind of like graze over the skulls, like with her hand and like barely touch them. And yeah, you're going to get some odd people, when you go to things. She finally came back. And the part that confused the crap out of me is she had like a heavy chain on with a really big beef cow pendant. And she put her hand on a buffalo skull that still had a hole in the head. And she goes, I'm like, oh God, she's going to start crying. What is going on? She goes, I can really like appreciate what you do. But I just have to ask, like, how do these animals die? I was like, I don't know if she can handle that. I was like, well, they were all raised in a really loving home and they were raised for meat. Just like smiling at her. I'm like, I don't want to tell her they took one to the head. Like
Some
but
people
she
just can't handle the
cried and
truth.
it can't. And she literally just kept like petting this buffalo art piece that I had on the table. And then she basically, before she walked away, said, I really appreciate like what you do, but I could like never have something like this in my house because it would just remind me. I'm like, yeah, okay, have a good day. So you show beef or you just like cows? I don't understand. And I didn't ask because she was too bothered.
Oh man.
That's so funny.
It is.
Well, Cassie, is there anything else that you would like our listeners to know about you?
Um, is that I just really love what I do. I guess if you didn't pick that up already, I love what I do. You can always find me on Instagram. That's my favorite platform. I am on Facebook, but I prefer Insta. And if you follow along, you'll get a mix of seriousness, art, funny stuff, life, just a whole bunch of things.
Yeah,
And
we'll be sure to link you in our show notes as well.
sure.
As your website too. But before we
Yeah.
hop off here, we like to ask all of our guests a few rapid fire questions.
All righty.
And so this is just for fun, just a little bit kind of fun, get to know you type stuff. And like I said, it's nothing elaborate, just something fun. But we're gonna do 10 questions. So question number 1, what are you reading right now?
Oh, I'm actually reading Granger Smith's book, Like a River.
Oh, is that hard? Is that hard to get through?
Yup.
Oh,
We're at the really hard part right now.
Oh dear.
Oh.
I didn't read it this morning because I knew I was coming on the podcast with you guys. Let's just put it that way. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh man.
That one's like maybe in like 5 years when I don't have kids that are that age. Like,
it's good.
Yeah.
So far. It's very good.
Well,
That's all I can say.
I enjoy their family and respect their family so much. But I also, just a little plug, I really enjoy his podcast as well. It's really good.
Me too. I agree.
All right. Number 2, sagebrush or blue stem?
Oh, I don't have either near me. So can I please choose both? Because I have dandelions.
Okay, so side note, sorry, I don't want to
Yeah.
interrupt you, but this is one thing that I forgot to ask, but
Yeah.
how you're in Wisconsin, which
Yeah.
is not known for being particularly Western, but
It's
like,
No.
Canton.
how do you handle it?
It's fine. There's actually, I would say, pockets of Western community. However, because I know people that really do like the full blown cowboy lifestyle, I sometimes am like, you don't really know. But I do know a lot of other people around here too that really embrace like cowgirl and cowboy lifestyle. Um, I would say though, like our style with inside our house is way different than what you're gonna find in any other Wisconsin, Western Wisconsin, Midwest home.
Yeah.
Because we do add those little Western items in where it's just very cookie cutter. I feel like people's styles around here are so cookie cutter. And it drives me nuts, but I don't have to be like that.
Yeah. You can be different.
Yep.
All right, question 3. What is your favorite part of being a homesteader, farmer, rancher?
Involving my kids and like seeing their happiness out in the wild. Like Colton is huge in archery. Lane is a total horse girl. And that's something they can both enjoy with their dad. And just like it gives them a solid foundation of what it's like to have to be a hard worker. And I love that.
Absolutely.
What's one thing you have on your bucket list?
Oh boy. I'd love to sell an art piece for like $20,000 and we'll just reach to that for now. And I have a few people that I would love to have a collaboration with if done correctly. But we won't speak the name out just yet.
Yeah. All right, this one's important. What's your
Yep.
favorite steak cut and how do you like it cooked?
Oh my. Well, if you're gonna feed me steak, it better be not too medium, just about. And lately I've just been loving a good sirloin.
Same.
I
And
think you
I
can
love
always
some
love good
caramelized onions and blue cheese with it. Oh, yum.
That's the best. So good. All right. What's your favorite wildflower?
Do you guys have Queen Anne's lace by y'all?
A little bit.
Okay. So for around here by me, like I love when Queen Anne's lace comes into season. I'm always just running around looking at it. It doesn't smell, but you know, it's pretty. I love it.
It is pretty. All right. If you had the choice, a log cabin or an old farmhouse.
Farmhouse. Log cabins sound like they have a lot of upkeep, and I just don't want to play that game. Got enough to do.
You have kind of an old farmhouse, don't you?
We do, 1901.
It's so cute. So cute.
Thanks. And we just added on to it. So, yeah, it's cute.
That's awesome. Okay. Favorite recipe or meal to make?
Ooh. So lately, I would say like this winter, my whole family has been loving. This is going to sound so silly, but grilled chicken thighs on a pellet grill with Italian seasoning, garlic, onion, smoked paprika, salt and pepper. Put that on there, grill them babies up. And then I have this delightful lemon cream sauce that you put over some rigatoni with Parmesan cheese and basil. And then these delightful spicy roasted carrots. That's been the family favorite as of late.
sounds so good.
I
It's
love
lunchtime,
that.
so I'm hungry now.
I know, I'm hungry too.
Cassie, you sound like you should like have a Instagram like cook with me day or
Yeah, a lot of
something.
my friends tell me that, or they tell me I need to write a cookbook, and I'm like, someday.
Yeah.
Not right now.
All right, last question. Share one random fact about you.
Oh, okay. So this is the most super random fact. I can wiggle my eyes. That's a super random fact about me, and I know a lot of people can't do that. And I'm an extremely good whistler. Like, I would actually like to find a whistling competition. I've always wanted to do that.
You are a very good whistler.
Yeah. I
I
used to
think
annoy the crap out of my dad.
well, when we were set up down in Texas, when was
Yeah.
it 2020, I guess?
2020.
Yeah. I realized that you whistle because our booths were next to each other and you whistled a lot. And I'm like, she's a
Yeah.
little songbird over there.
Perhaps it's a self-soothing mechanism. I don't know. Yeah.
Oh.
All right. Well, I think we've covered it and we've had a great conversation today. Thanks so much for coming on.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you guys asked me because I was really excited when you did.
Yeah, we're so excited for this series, and I love that you get to be our first guest and tell your story. I think it's so important that we learn more about the people, not just who we follow on social media, but behind brands that we love and businesses that we like to support, and just realize that people are that they're just people and
They're people.
they're moms and their wives and they're business owners and they wear a lot of hats. And so I'm really excited that you agreed to join us.
Oh, thank you. I love you guys. You guys are great.
And one day, I promise you, I'm going to have one of your skulls on my wall.
Okay. Well, maybe I will deliver yours.
Oh,
Wink, wink.
I get special treatment. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I think, well, we've talked about this many times, but we need to have like a girls trip
That would be
and
so
just like get
fun.
together
Yeah.
and,
Agreed.
get
Agreed.
like a cabin or something and hang out for a few days.
I agree. That would be great.
And not work.
Yeah.
No work,
Not work.
just fun.
Yep.
Yeah.
You can do it.
All right, Cassie. Well, thank you so much again. And we hope that you have a great day and keep on keeping on.
I shall. Thank you. You too. Keep on keeping on.